The galaxy had long believed humanity to be a weak, fractured species. They were unpredictable, stubborn, and dangerously curious, but they lacked the unifying discipline that made other civilizations formidable. That belief held until the day the stars went dark. It started with the disappearance of the Argaxian Harvest Fleet. An automated distress signal had pinged from the edge of Sector 9, a remote region occupied by sparse mining outposts. No one paid much attention at first. Pirates were a nuisance there, and Argaxians were known to exaggerate threats. But when no further signals came and the entire fleet vanished from long-range scanners, curiosity took hold. The Galactic Council dispatched a scout ship to investigate, but it never returned. Then a second. Then a third. It wasn't until the Zuricans, one of the most advanced species in the galaxy, sent a Dreadnought-class warship that the truth finally emerged. The wreckage of the Argaxian fleet drifted through the void, its hulls riddled with holes, torn apart as if from the inside. There were no survivors, no signs of battle, just empty, shredded shells of once mighty ships. Panic whispered through the galactic community. Was it a new, unknown enemy? A cosmic anomaly? No one had answers. Surveillance drones were dispatched, and their data feeds revealed something truly terrifying. The insignia of Earth's Terran Confederacy emblazoned on fragments of hull plating. Humanity, those chaotic, scattered beings, had somehow obliterated one of the galaxy's most formidable armadas. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Ambassadors from dozens of species argued and shouted, their fear palpable. Humanity was supposed to be a minor annoyance, confined to a tiny cluster of planets. How had they wiped out an entire battle group? Why had they done it? During the chaotic deliberations, another distress signal cut through the Council's broadcast network, this time from the Zinthari Nebula. The Zurikan Dreadnought had been found, its colossal frame cracked and smoldering, adrift like a tomb. Panic turned to terror as grainy footage from a damaged drone played on the Council's central display, human warships, hundreds of them, materializing from hyperspace, their hulls sleek and bristling with unrecognizable weaponry. One ship alone dwarfed the Dreadnought. The humans hadn't just evolved, they had transformed into a war machine. Council intelligence scrambled to understand what had changed. Spies were dispatched to human colonies, but they returned with fragmented reports, murmurs of unification, whispers of a grand project spanning decades. Somehow, humanity had consolidated its fractured states and pooled its knowledge. They had harnessed their chaotic nature, turning it into a singular, unstoppable force. Then, the message came. A single transmission from the Terran Confederacy addressed the entire galaxy. To the so-called galactic powers, you thought us weak, fragmented, and insignificant. You ignored our pleas when our colonies were raided, when our trade routes were pillaged, and when our diplomats were executed without cause. You thought humanity would cower and scatter. You were wrong. We have not forgotten. We are coming. Humanity sends 700,000 warships. Prepare yourselves. The transmission cut off, leaving silence heavier than a neutron star. Panic erupted among the council members. Some called for surrender, others for preemptive strikes. Alliances were forged in seconds. Races that had warred for millennia now sought each other's protection. The galaxy, for all its power and sophistication, was unprepared for the coming storm. As star systems mobilized their defenses, reports came flooding in, human fleets advancing on multiple fronts, their ships moving with ruthless precision. They didn't pause to communicate or negotiate. They simply attacked, systematically dismantling every fleet that dared to stand against them. World after world fell, and the galaxy watched in horror as humanity, once underestimated and mocked, burned across the stars like a vengeful wildfire. Those who survived whispered among themselves, fearing the inevitable truth. Humanity was no longer a scattered threat. It was an unyielding force, and the galaxy had no one to blame but itself. The war had only just begun. As the first wave of humanity's war machine surged through the outer systems, the galaxy struggled to comprehend the sheer magnitude of the threat. Reports of entire planets being razed and orbital defenses being shattered came in faster than they could be processed. The Galactic Council, which had once debated trade tariffs and border disputes, now found itself on the brink of collapse. Admiral Kelnar of the Zuricon Empire, one of the most respected and feared military minds in the galaxy, was tasked with organizing a counteroffensive. He gathered representatives from every species willing to fight: Calorians with their plasma lances, Vraxians with their telepathic coordination, and even the elusive Tharn, who rarely involved themselves in galactic conflicts. But despite their combined might, none of them could shake the fear gnawing at their hearts. "They move like a single organism," Kelnar growled, glaring at the holographic star map where human fleets carved lines of destruction through star systems. How did they unify so quickly? Last we knew, they were still bickering among themselves? High Strategist Yorvax, a reptilian Vraxian, hissed in agreement. "Our spies detected a change almost a decade ago. Some kind of unification protocol. Project Dominion, they called it. The humans must have ended their internal disputes. Somehow they forged a single purpose." "But that's impossible," snapped Ambassador Threla of the Valdir. "Humans are chaotic by nature. They fought each other more viciously than any alien invader. How could they become this war machine?" Kelnar narrowed his gaze. "Perhaps it was that very chaos that gave them strength. We were too arrogant to see it. While we were complacent, they were evolving." Suddenly, an urgent transmission crackled through the war room. A young officer rushed to Kelnar's side, his face pale. "Admiral, we just received footage from the Raiden system. They've deployed the Titans." "The Titans?" Kelnar's blood ran cold. He knew the term from outdated reports: massive capital ships rumored to dwarf any dreadnought in existence. He gestured to the technician, who activated the feed. The image flickered to life, showing a fleet of colossal human warships emerging from hyperspace. Each one was a behemoth of steel and fury, bristling with energy weapons that pulsed with a sinister red glow. Planetary defense platforms fired in vain, their projectiles disintegrating against powerful energy shields. One of the Titans opened fire, a single beam slicing through 3 orbital stations like they were made of paper. As the feed faded to static, Kelnar gritted his teeth. "We cannot fight this. Not head-on." Yorvax's eyes narrowed. "Are you suggesting we surrender?" "Never," Kelnar snapped. "But we must be smart. Humanity may be a unified force now, but they are still driven by pride. If we can lure their main fleet into a trap, perhaps around the gas giant at Aric V, we might be able to detonate the planet's core and take a large portion of their armada with it." Threla scoffed. "And what if they see through it? What if they destroy us before we even reach the gas giant?" "Then we die fighting," Kelnar said grimly. "Better to make a stand than wait for them to pick us off one by one." The council room fell into uneasy silence, the enormity of the plan weighing down on them. Despite their advanced technology and millennia of experience in warfare, they were now facing an enemy driven not by conquest, but by vengeance, a species wronged and determined to claim the respect they had been denied for centuries. Messages from surviving fleets continued to trickle in, each more desperate than the last. The reports were clear. Humanity was not negotiating, not sparing anyone. They moved with cold efficiency, targeting infrastructure and communication hubs, dismantling civilizations piece by piece. Kelnar sent out orders to mobilize the remaining forces, ordering ships from every allied faction to regroup at Aric V. It was a gamble, a desperate, reckless plan, but it was all they had left. As the commanders dispersed, Yorvax lingered behind, his scaled hands clenched. "Do you think we can win?" he asked quietly. Kelnar didn't meet his gaze, his eyes fixed on the holographic map where red human markers continued to expand. "I don't know," he admitted. "But I do know one thing. We underestimated them, and that might be the mistake that dooms us all." The tension was suffocating, but there was no turning back now. As the War Council dissolved, the galaxy held its breath, knowing that the fate of countless worlds hung on the edge of a knife. As the fleet prepared for the desperate stand at Aric V, news of humanity's relentless advance continued to pour in. Reports indicated that the human armada had split into several battle groups, each targeting key sectors simultaneously. Strategic outposts were being annihilated with ruthless precision, leaving entire quadrants defenseless. The galaxy's most fortified strongholds had fallen within hours. Admiral Kelnar moved through the command center, issuing orders and rallying his officers. He couldn't afford to show fear, not when morale was already fragile. Yet deep inside, his stomach churned with a sense of impending doom. "Sir," called out Lieutenant Morvac, a wiry Calorian with sharp golden eyes. "New intel from the Harkon cluster. The human fleet decimated the entire orbital defense grid without taking a single loss. They're pushing towards the core worlds." Kelnar grunted. "Are there any survivors?" "A few escape pods made it out. We're getting debriefs now." He nodded, trying to process the nightmare unfolding across the galaxy. Just then, a communication request flashed on his console, from the Terran Confederacy itself. He hesitated, exchanging glances with his officers, then accepted the transmission. The screen flickered, revealing a human figure standing tall and imposing. She was dressed in a stark, obsidian uniform, adorned with the emblem of the Confederacy. Her cold, unblinking eyes seemed to pierce through the screen. "I am Grand Admiral Lyra Cole of the Terran Dominion Fleet," she stated, her voice unwavering and commanding. "Who am I addressing?" Admiral Kelnar straightened, refusing to let his fear show. "Admiral Kelnar of the Zurikan Empire and commander of the Galactic Defense Coalition." Her lips curled into a faint, humorless smile. "Ah, the Coalition. Desperation makes for strange alliances, doesn't it?" "You're declaring war on the entire galaxy, human," Kelnar shot back. "You cannot win. We will resist until the last star burns out." Grand Admiral Cole raised an eyebrow. "Interesting choice of words. Resistance is admirable, but futile. You brought this upon yourselves when you dismissed humanity as weak and expendable. When you raided our colonies and slaughtered our civilians. Did you think we'd forget? Did you think we'd always be the prey?" Kelnar clenched his jaw. "Revenge will not justify genocide. Your forces are but a spark against the vastness of the galaxy. You cannot defeat us all." "Can't we?" Cole's eyes glinted with ruthless determination. "We did not just prepare for this war, we transcended. You saw us as squabbling factions, but unity forged us into something more. We built, we innovated, and we weaponized our very spirit. We learned from your cruelties, your betrayals. Now, we repay the lessons." Kelnar struggled to keep his voice steady. "You're dooming yourselves to endless conflict. Your bloodlust will consume you." Cole tilted her head slightly. "Survival is our nature. Adaptation is our strength. The galaxy failed to learn that humanity does not break. We evolve." With that, the transmission cut out, leaving the command center in tense silence. Morvac was the first to speak, his voice shaking. "Sir, they're coming. Long-range sensors show a massive fleet moving toward Aric V. Estimated arrival in 3 standard hours." Kelnar felt his heart pounding in his chest. He knew this was it. the battle that would determine the fate of countless species. Sound the alert. Prepare all ships and activate planetary defenses. Make sure every fighter pilot is ready to launch. We make our stand here. The command center erupted into activity as officers rushed to relay commands. Kelnar moved to the observation deck, staring out into the vastness of space, his thoughts racing. Would they stand a chance? Could they even slow the human onslaught? Yorvax approached, his serpentine form coiled in anxious tension. Do you believe her words, Admiral? That we brought this upon ourselves? Kelnar didn't answer right away. He had fought in countless battles, witnessed the arrogance of the galaxy's dominant powers as they dismissed humanity as irrelevant. Maybe they had pushed too far, underestimated the spirit of a species that refused to die quietly. But it didn't matter now. Regret wouldn't stop the death toll. We underestimated them, he finally said, but it's too late to debate the past. Right now, our only option is to fight and hope we can hold the line. As the countdown to the human fleet's arrival ticked away, Kelnar couldn't help but wonder if this was the end, if the galaxy itself would be reshaped by the fury of a species that had nothing left to lose. The tension aboard the flagship, Vorkarn, was suffocating as the countdown neared its final minutes. Fleet formations were finalized, defense grids activated, and every available ship was positioned to create a layered defense around Aric V. Admiral Kelnar stood at the heart of the command deck, his eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the vast human fleet approaching from hyperspace. Morvac was coordinating the last of the fighter squadrons, his voice calm but strained. All wings report ready, Admiral. Orbital cannons are powered up and standing by. We've loaded the destabilization charges on the gas giant, as ordered. They're primed to detonate if the fleet clusters near the gravitational well. Kelnar gave a sharp nod. Good. Make sure the secondary fleet stays hidden on the dark side of Aric V's moon. They're our last line of defense. Just then, Yorvax slithered up beside him, his scaled brow furrowed. Are we truly prepared, Kelnar? Even with our best strategies, we're fighting a force unlike any we've faced. The Admiral didn't reply immediately. Instead, he watched as the first distortions appeared on the sensor grid, flashes of light, expanding and twisting as the fabric of space itself seemed to ripple. Human warships materialized in perfect formation, each vessel gleaming with deadly precision. The Titans, massive and ominous, moved at the heart of the armada. A whisper of dread swept through the command center. Kelnar swallowed his fear and opened the fleet-wide channel. This is Admiral Kelnar to all coalition forces. The enemy has arrived. Remember what you're fighting for. Your homes, your families, your very existence. We stand here because we refuse to bow to tyranny. Humanity seeks to break us, but we will hold the line. Today, we make them bleed. A resounding chorus of affirmations echoed through the comms. With a grim resolve, Kelnar raised his hand. All batteries, open fire! Energy beams and plasma lances screamed through the void, cutting across the blackness toward the human fleet. The leading Terran ships took the brunt of the assault, their shields flaring but holding. Moments later, the humans returned fire, and the sky erupted into chaos. Blue ion blasts lanced through coalition lines, disintegrating corvettes and frigates in an instant. Human railguns fired in unison, projectiles moving faster than thought, slicing through capital ships like they were paper. Kelnar watched in horror as an entire Calorian destroyer wing vanished in a burst of fiery debris. "Focus fire on the flanking groups," he shouted. "We need to break their formation." The coalition fleet adjusted, pouring concentrated fire on the human right flank, where a group of frigates was pressing forward. One ship crumpled under the barrage, but before they could capitalize on the weakness, the humans adapted. Titans shifted position, and massive disruptor waves erupted, temporarily scrambling Coalition targeting systems. Morvac's voice cut through the chaos. "Admiral, we've lost contact with the Verinox cluster. The entire wing is gone." Kelnar slammed his fist against the console. "Damn it! Pull back the reserve units to reinforce the left perimeter. We can't let them encircle us." But even as the orders were relayed, the humans executed their next move, deploying thousands of small, agile fighter drones that swarmed like a school of metallic piranhas, overwhelming point defenses and tearing through the exposed flanks. A surge of panic rose among the crew as more ships reported catastrophic damage. Kelnar's mind raced, calculating and recalculating odds, but the cold truth settled in. They were being outmaneuvered and outgunned at every turn. The humans didn't just fight with power, they fought with strategy, precision, and brutal efficiency. Yorvax slithered up, his usually composed face twisted with fear. "Admiral, we must trigger the gas giant. It's our only chance to cripple their core fleet." Kelnar hesitated. The explosion would be catastrophic, potentially swallowing friend and foe alike. But what choice did they have? His jaw tightened, and he nodded. "Activate the destabilization charges. All units fall back to minimum safe distance." Warnings flashed across the display as countdown timers appeared, each ticking toward detonation. The Coalition ships pulled away, breaking formation, and the human fleet surged forward, sensing victory. The Titans advanced, pushing deeper into the gravitational well of Aric V. As the timer hit 0, the gas giant trembled. A chain reaction ignited within its dense core, and in an instant, the planet erupted in a titanic explosion. A shockwave of pure energy and volatile gases ripped through the void, engulfing the human vanguard and scattering debris for thousands of kilometers. Silence reigned as the remnants of the explosion faded. Sensor readings recalibrated, and for a moment, it seemed as if the impossible had happened. A significant portion of the human fleet was gone. Cheers erupted throughout the Coalition command center, officers clapping and celebrating what felt like a miracle. But Kelnar's instincts screamed at him to stay wary. As the residual energy cleared, his worst fears were realized. Through the dust and fire, human warships emerged, their shields flickering but intact. The Titans had survived, and with them hundreds of escort ships. The human armada regrouped, unbroken, as if mocking their desperate attempt to fight back. A message came through, Grand Admiral Cole's voice calm and unyielding. "Impressive, Admiral. You fought well, but your desperation only confirms what we already knew. You're not prepared for humanity's wrath. We gave you a chance to surrender. Now, you face extinction." The realization hit Kelnar like a hammer blow. They hadn't even dented humanity's resolve. As his fleet continued to disintegrate under the renewed human assault, he knew the galaxy's fate was sealed. Humanity had come not just to conquer, but to erase. The shattered remnants of the Coalition fleet scattered, desperately trying to regroup and form some semblance of defense. The colossal Titans loomed over the battlefield like grim reapers, methodically hunting down survivors and obliterating anything that dared to move. Admiral Kelnar remained rooted at his console, numb with disbelief. They had gambled everything on the gas giant's detonation, and it had barely slowed humanity down. Across the command deck, the grim reality sank in. Officers whispered prayers to forgotten gods. Some simply stared at the screens, frozen with terror. Morvac approached Kelnar, his face pale and eyes hollow. "Admiral," he rasped, we lost the secondary fleet. The moon defense line collapsed. The humans are advancing on the planet itself." Kelnar's hands trembled, but he forced himself to remain steady. "Order the remaining ships to fall back to low orbit. We'll use the planetary cannons to cover their retreat. Prepare for ground combat. Aric V is our last stand. Morvac hesitated. Sir, is it even worth fighting anymore? We're just delaying the inevitable. Kelnar shot him a fierce glare. If we fall here, the core worlds will have no warning. Every minute we buy is a minute they can use to prepare. We will fight to the last breath. As Morvac moved to relay the orders, Yorvax slid up beside Kelnar, his tone low and grim. We underestimated them from the start. We never thought they could become this juggernaut. Their unity is terrifying. Even the mightiest galactic empires never forged something like this. Kelnar nodded slowly, his mind racing through fragments of reports, old intelligence briefings, and what Cole had said. Unity born from hate. We pushed them too far, treated them like insects to be crushed. And now, they're proving they're anything but. Suddenly, the comm officer shouted, "Incoming transmission from the planet's surface. Governor Theric is requesting immediate contact." Kelnar tapped his console, bringing up the governor's feed. Theric's face appeared, strained and sweating, his elaborate robes stained with ash. "Admiral, we're being overrun down here. Human drop pods are penetrating the atmosphere. Their soldiers are everywhere. Our city shields are buckling." Kelnar's chest tightened. "Hold the ground as long as possible. Evacuate civilians to the underground bunkers and lock them down. I'll send what support we can." Therac swallowed, fear evident in his eyes. "You don't understand. They're not just attacking military targets. They're sweeping through residential zones, slaughtering anyone they find. There's no mercy." The transmission cut off abruptly as explosions rocked the planet's surface, and Kelnar gritted his teeth. They weren't just fighting an army. They were facing the fury of a species bent on complete and utter annihilation. The command center shuddered as the ship's hull absorbed a glancing blow. Morvac called out from his station, "Direct hit on the port thrusters!" "We've lost maneuverability." Kelnar opened the fleet channel once more, his voice stern and commanding. "To all coalition forces, fall back to planetary defense zones. Ground troops prepare for urban combat. We will fight them on the surface if we must. We will not give up Aric V." As the warship descended through the atmosphere, Kelnar looked out at the horizon. Massive human dropships were already swarming across the skyline, disgorging thousands of infantry units equipped with powered exoskeletons and energy weapons. Coalition forces were desperately attempting to form defensive lines, but human precision fire tore through their formations, leaving nothing but scorched bodies and crumbling fortifications. As the Vorkarn touched down in the capital's central plaza, Kelnar prepared to disembark with his elite guard. Yorvax was already rallying troops, his scaled form weaving between soldiers as he issued orders. Morvac hurried over, carrying a plasma rifle, his usual crisp uniform now rumpled and stained. "Sir, are you sure about this? You're needed on the bridge." Kelnar shook his head. "The battle is here now. I won't hide while my people fight and die. Humanity wants to exterminate us? Let them see we don't die easily." The streets were chaos incarnate. Burning wreckage littered the avenues, and screams of terror filled the air as human shock troops advanced with brutal efficiency. Coalition soldiers fired from hastily erected barricades, but the humans moved like phantoms, appearing and disappearing with surgical precision. Kelnar ducked behind a crumbling monument as a human combat drone unleashed a burst of kinetic rounds, shredding two nearby soldiers. He leveled his plasma rifle and fired, scoring a direct hit that sent the drone crashing to the ground. "Regroup," he shouted to his troops. "Hold this plaza. Do not let them break through." Suddenly, the ground trembled, and a colossal Titan-class dropship descended, disgorging a fresh wave of armored infantry. One figure stood out among them, a tall, imposing woman in dark combat armor with a flowing crimson cape, Grand Admiral Lyra Cole herself. Kelnar's blood ran cold as she strode forward, her helmet retracting to reveal the same piercing eyes from the transmission. Her troops formed a defensive ring, but she stepped forward alone, fearless and composed. "So," she called out, her voice carrying over the gunfire, "the mighty Admiral Kelnar, fighting in the dirt with his soldiers. I almost respect that." He leveled his rifle at her, defiance burning in his gaze. "This world won't fall easily. You'll have to bury us all." Cole smiled faintly, a cruel, humorless grin. "Oh, I intend to." Before he could fire, a searing pain shot through his shoulder, and he collapsed to one knee, dropping his weapon. One of her snipers had hit him from a distance, and his blood soaked through his uniform. Cole walked closer, looming over him, her eyes cold and unyielding. "Your resistance is admirable but pointless. Humanity has risen above its fractured past, forged by your hatred and disrespect. You will not stop us." Kelnar gritted his teeth, glaring up at her. "You're nothing but monsters, slaughtering civilians, annihilating entire worlds. How is that different from what you claimed to hate?" Her face remained impassive. "Monsters? Number survivors. You taught us that the galaxy only respects power and brutality. We're merely following your example." With that, she gestured to her troops, and Kelnar was dragged away, bleeding and broken. As the coalition forces crumbled around him and the human banners rose above the city, he couldn't help but wonder if they had always been doomed from the start, if the galaxy's arrogance had sealed its fate long before humanity unleashed its vengeance. The once proud capital of Aric V was now a wasteland of smoldering ruins and scattered corpses. Human soldiers methodically swept the streets, executing any resistance they encountered and rounding up survivors. Smoke choked the sky, blotting out the sun, while the screams of the captured echoed through the shattered alleys. Admiral Kelnar was dragged through the debris-strewn streets, his hands bound and his uniform soaked with blood. He was barely conscious, every step sending a fresh wave of agony through his battered body. Human soldiers flanked him on both sides, their visors glinting coldly as they led him to the city square, where Grand Admiral Lyra Cole awaited. Cole stood at the center of the plaza, surrounded by her elite guard, overseeing the systematic execution of captured soldiers. One by one, coalition officers were forced to their knees and shot in the back of the head. There was no trial, no mercy, only cold, efficient slaughter. Kelnar was shoved forward, forced to kneel before Cole. She looked down at him with an expression devoid of pity or anger, just calculated indifference. One of her officers handed her a data slate, and she glanced at it briefly before addressing him. "Admiral Kelnar," she said, her tone as calm as if she were discussing logistics. "Your forces have been completely neutralized. The coalition is shattered. Your remaining ships are either destroyed or in full retreat. Aric V is ours." Kelnar struggled to lift his head, blood dripping from his mouth. "You butchered civilians, children. This isn't war, it's genocide." Cole regarded him without flinching. "You of all people should understand. Your coalition slaughtered human colonists without remorse. Our outposts were burned to ash, our diplomats executed for daring to seek equality. Did you expect us to forget? To forgive?" He forced himself to meet her gaze. "We underestimated you. But this is madness. You're exterminating entire civilizations. You're no better than the monsters you claim to fight." For the first time, Cole's expression softened, just a fraction. "Perhaps not. But your galaxy made us this way. We tried peace. We tried cooperation. You spat on it, treated us as vermin. We learned your lesson well. Power is the only language the galaxy respects." A brutal cough racked Kelnar's body, but he didn't lower his gaze. If you become the same evil, that wronged you, then what was the point of fighting? Cole hesitated, as if the question genuinely gave her pause. But her resolve hardened in an instant. Survival. Humanity will not be prey again. We will not be slaves to anyone's arrogance or cruelty. We will carve our own future from the bones of those who doubted us. She motioned to her soldiers, and they hauled Kelnar to his feet, dragging him toward a makeshift gallows erected at the heart of the square. As they prepared the noose, Cole raised her voice, addressing the crowd of survivors, civilians and soldiers alike, forced to kneel and watch. This is the fate of all who defy humanity. You thought us weak, scattered, easy to conquer. You laughed when we begged for mercy and slaughtered our people without hesitation. Now the galaxy will burn until respect is carved into its very bones. We will not ask for forgiveness. We will take what is ours. The soldiers tightened the noose around Kelnar's neck, and he felt the rough fiber bite into his skin. He glanced at the terrified faces of his people, once proud warriors, now reduced to trembling captives. Despite the pain, he managed to summon his last reserves of strength and shouted out, his voice defiant and unwavering. "Your unity is born of hate, but it will destroy you from within. You can conquer the stars, but you will never find peace. Your vengeance will consume you." Cole looked at him with cold finality. "Peace is a luxury we can't afford, not while the galaxy remembers us as prey. Farewell, Admiral." With a swift motion of her hand, the lever was pulled, and Kelnar's body dropped, the rope snapping taut. His vision blurred, and his breath was ripped from his lungs. Darkness closed in, and the last thing he saw was Cole turning away, already giving new orders, efficient, relentless, unstoppable. The crowd was forced to watch until his body hung lifeless and still. Then the executions continued, as humanity made its brutal statement to the universe. Any who dared challenge them would be obliterated without hesitation or remorse. As the human war machine continued its relentless march across the stars, whispers of the massacre on Aric V spread through the remaining coalition worlds. Terror gripped entire civilizations as they faced the horrifying reality that humanity was no longer the fragmented, chaotic race they once knew. They were a unified, ruthless force driven by a single purpose: to destroy those who had once scorned them. Resistance faltered and collapsed. Worlds surrendered without a fight, preferring submission over total annihilation. The Galactic Council dissolved, its members scattering like frightened insects. Humanity had taken the galaxy by storm, and now the stars themselves seemed to bend to their will. In the quiet aftermath, Grand Admiral Lyra Cole looked out from the bridge of her flagship, her mind burdened with the weight of victory. She had secured humanity's place as the dominant power, but somewhere deep within, a sliver of doubt gnawed at her. Had they truly triumphed, or had they merely traded one kind of tyranny for another? But doubt was a weakness she couldn't afford. The galaxy had to be brought to heel. Only then would humanity be safe from betrayal. Only then could they rest. With a deep breath, she steeled herself and gave the next command. Another world to conquer, another species to crush. There would be no forgiveness, no mercy, only the relentless advance of the Terran dominion, until the galaxy remembered humanity's wrath for generations to come.